On a fine Saturday morning, afternoon, evening, whatever it is for you, we're glad to see you, my friends. It's been a while. Good morning, David.
Good morning. Fresh tunes.
Fresh tunes on a fresh morning. Yeah, I thought I'd kick it off a little bit different. It's still Newsboys. It's the earlier vintage.
Yes.
Earlier vintage Newsboys, and a little bit of instrumental to kick it off. You know, it's funny. First time I ever saw them was at Gospel Music Week in Nashville back. This was in the 80s there. Wow, can you believe that's been, what, 20, 30? Ooh, man. Over 30 years ago. Anyway, but it's funny because it was the very late 30s. Late 30s. I'm almost 100 years old. No, but anyway, I'd never seen them. They were a very new band, and they were really something else. I'll tell you what, the Newsboys truly. This was the Pete Furler edition before Michael Tate, but. They really put on a show, and their drummer was just crazy. I mean, he's just all over, and it wasn't a big kit. You know, I don't know if you've seen in rock bands, they for some reason decide to get crazy. You know, they've got all of these. You know, you got your hi-hats, and then you got your medium drums, you got your, of course, your kick drum, your toms, and all of this, you know, and or hi-hat is actually your cymbal. I'm sorry, excuse me, your snare, and then you've got, in any event, you've got all of these drums. Well, anyway, the Newsboys, basically, it's a drum. It's your tom drum, your kick drum, a tom, and then you got a snare. I mean, that's basically what you hear here, basically, and then a cymbal or two. I mean, just a very simple, probably four-piece drum kit.
Yeah, most of that stuff on, like Wayne's World, when Garth's going nuts in his fantasy and the music store, that's just for show.
Yeah.
You know?
And so, yeah, because a bunch of them are the same drum.
Yeah.
But anyway, so this guy's just beating these 3 to 4 drums, you know, and then finally the guy gets up, jumps on the tom, the kick drum, and then does a flip out into the middle of the stage and stuff like that. You know, and everybody's just going crazy, you know, saying, "What is with this guy?" This was in Nashville at one of the country venues.
Oh, okay.
Oh yeah, they use clubs all throughout Nashville to showcase these artists. They were still fairly new, but. Newsboys was one of the acts that everybody wanted to see. They were still from Australia at the time. They've all moved pretty much here to America and live here in America, and half of them are probably American by now. But it was really one of the showstoppers. It was one of the really high points of the week at Gospel Music Association, and it kind of it's funny, it didn't even seem like gospel anymore, you know, it kind of became contemporary, truly contemporary Christian music. But no, really, really great show. And they have managed to remain at the top of Christian music. Pete Furler went through some issues. He had some alcohol issues and had to step back from the band. And Michael Tate stepped in and has done a good job with them. In fact, I think there's a new, I don't know if it's a new album or they did some songs with him, but I think there's a whole album where it has Yesterday and Today, and they have Pete Furler and Michael Tate actually together.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm getting goosebumps because to me, it just shows loyalty and devotion and commitment. In other words, so many bands, particularly secular bands, somebody messes up, they leave the group angry, or the band gets mad and kicks somebody out. And as believers, as Christians and Christian love, when someone stumbles, somebody has an issue, we're not supposed to just kick them to the curb or vice versa. It should not be bitter. You should have that empathy for them and feel that what can we do to help you, and if they come through it, then you embrace that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a victory.
Yeah.
It's a victory, right? If they've come through it. So anyway, it just was really good, and there's some really good songs. I don't know the name of it. I just happened to stumble on it on one of my music. I have a couple of music what do you call them, networks, music sites, I guess, music sites that I go to, that I get my music from and listen to on my phone.
Yeah.
And I did see there's this album and there's these songs, and there's one really good one. Well, they're all pretty good, but this is one that they do together, Mike and Pete Furler.
Something I want to say on that, because, my son, my oldest son, has had a pretty nice run as a recording artist. And in high school, I was kind of one of those band dads that,
Dave, I'm sorry. Okay.
Oh, there we go.
I don't know why I do this every week.
Now you know I'm not shutting you down.
I guess I just don't like you.
Okay. Well,
I'm sorry, I apologize.
You're multitasking. It's hard to do.
Yeah,
but what I was going to get at, and Eddie, you've produced and promoted concert tours.
Dave, hold on one second. Do you want to turn your mic on?
Does that sound better?
That sounds much better.
Okay. I don't sound like I'm yelling down the hallway anymore. But, okay, let me get back to what I was saying.
Yes.
You've promoted several concert tours around the world, right? Mostly in Europe, but Africa and in North America. You formed your own record label. You helped a lot of bands get a lot of play and connecting with fans all over. On a small scale, I'm a band dad, okay? My oldest son is in high school, starts his little band, and they get, more and more opportunities. And one of the things that was hardest for me to impress upon him is there is a big difference between being a performer and being an entertainer. There's nothing in the job description that says to be a drummer you have to do forward flips over the kick drum, right?
No.
But that's part of the stage performance.
It is.
That's part of giving them something extra. And that's what gives them that lasting strength, because they know how to connect to an audience and give them a show.
Yeah.
And it's not just about how great your vocals are or how tight your rhythm is, and it's about the show. It's about giving them something they'll enjoy.
Yeah. I always used to say, in the 90s, thrash came out.
Yeah.
In fact, earlier in the 80s, you had new age music, if you remember, okay?
Yeah.
And I hated it.
Yeah.
I still hate it. I mean, I still don't like it, okay? Because it missed one of the elements of what I consider music, that music has to have. To me, for music, there are two parts. One is melody, and well, of course, melody and harmony. It's from that song with Michael Jackson and Paul McCartney. But you have to have the melody, and you have to have a melody in your sound, okay? And then you have to have lyrics.
Yeah.
Actually, it's the lyrics and the melody. So you can have great lyrics and just sound horrible. It's not going to fly.
Right.
You can have great melody, but your lyrics are flat. And it can still...
It's a lot of nothing. It doesn't evoke strong emotions like a story does, like an ode or a ballad.
Right. So, but that will make you a good airplay artist.
Yes.
But a true artist that has longevity, you have to add that third element.
Which is dancing, right?
No.
That's what Ringo Starr said. He was on MTV. He says, back in my day, it was about the song. Now it's about the dance, the boy bands.
No, it goes back to what you said. Entertainment.
Yes.
You have to be entertaining.
Yes.
I don't care what you are. Ventriloquist, a comedian. I have to tell you this funny story. In fact, I thought about it. Every summer, my church, they have these guest preachers. Okay. So about 3 years ago, I think it's 3 years ago, maybe 4, they had this guest preacher. Of course, he was never been invited back, and I don't understand why. I guess it's a Baptist church, so even though it doesn't have a Baptist name, I don't know if you know they're disguising themselves nowadays.
Oh, sure.
They don't use Baptist. Anyway, I was there 3 years before I found out it was Baptist. But anyway, so this guy is a black preacher, great message. So at the very end of this thing, this preacher gives this great message, and he talks about, you know, all these things going on, all these problems, and right at the very end, he pulls a cigarette out of his pocket, and he starts smoking. He starts puffing on this cigarette. He's blowing smoke out.
Oh, my God.
And then his very last thing he says is, now, I know there's more people right now concerned about me sitting here smoking this cigarette than any of the things that I said. And then he says, and the rest of you are trying to figure out how in the heck did he keep a lit cigarette in his pocket for the last 45 minutes, you know. And sadly, he's never been invited back. But it was incredible. The guy was really good. It was a great message and everything. But he was right. These people were concerned about the fact that this guy pulled a cigarette out of his pocket in his back. But to me, that's a part of, I mean, that was the big surprise. You know what I mean?
Sure.
The surprise ending.
Yeah.
I mean, he has a great sermon, and he finishes off with that. In fact, I thought about it last week when I was in church, and I said, why haven't they brought this guy back? You've got all these people every year come back. Where's this guy? I meant to find out. I'm going to get his name and number because I want to find out where this guy. But I mean, but that's the type of thing that makes for a great artist. Yeah. Michael Jackson would not have been who he was if it had not been for that 20-year Motown reunion show that for Berry Gordy they did. Oh, okay. And he did Billie Jean and did the moonwalk. Nobody had seen the moonwalk. Yep. Nobody had ever seen the moonwalk. And all of a sudden, here comes Michael Jackson. He does Billie Jean, and he moonwalks and blows everybody's mind, and the rest is history. Michael Jackson ends up becoming the greatest performer, I would say, of our lifetime. Yeah. Right? Yeah. So, you know, that's what it is. The Beatles, it was their hair. It was that gimmick. It's always something, the mop top, or, you know, and every, Lady Gaga, lover or hater, she's incredible. She's an entertainer. Yes. First time I ever saw her, we were watching, my wife is really into dance. She was a dance major at Texas Women's University. And so I used to go watch her dance recitals, modern dance and stuff. And so she's always been into dance. And so we would watch So You Think You Can Dance every summer. And so all of a sudden, one day they have this person come out, and they say, oh, yeah, here's this artist, Lady Gaga. Nobody ever heard of this person. And she comes out, and she's got this weird, it looks like from the Knights, the Knights, Knights, you know, she had like chainmail, her whole face was covered. Okay. And her hands even. Yes, yes. So you couldn't see. The medieval days. Yeah, but you never could see what she looked like. Right. Oh, that's true. And she had this microphone that was like taped to her hand. I mean, you know, and so she's out there dancing and she's singing, and so she goes out and she does this incredible song, and everybody just went nuts over this Lady Gaga person. You know, nobody ever heard of Lady Gaga. And next thing you know, boom, Lady Gaga is a big hit, and then Lady Gaga becomes famous. But it was because there was mystery. That's one thing. Who is this person? I want to see, what does she really look like? You know? Yeah. And then she has this outfit, she dances, she sings, and she's good. So, again, it gets back to that element. She had the music, she has the lyrics, and she's an entertainer. And I have to say, lover or hater. In fact, I would put Lady Gaga up to me, personally, as one of the 3 finest Super Bowl performances ever. And did you see her Super Bowl performance? No. You missed it. Yeah, I did. And she caps it off. In fact, everything they did, they had these drones that they had computer programmed, and as she's singing, these drones are up there, and they're making the drones spell out words and do different things behind her, and then she's doing this whole routine, and at the very end, she's on this high stage, and she jumps off the stage, and they throw her a pass. She catches this pass and disappears. She just drops off this high stage and disappears. Yeah, and that was the end of the show.
That's the show, isn't it?
Catching the pass and disappearing, you know. And I think she may have had shoulder pads, like she had a little football outfit. But I mean, yeah, that's an entertainer. Yes. That is an entertainer. And that's the difference in that, and I have totally forgotten how we even got here.
Well, I was talking about how I'm trying to teach this to my, teenage son.
Yeah.
I'm trying to help him understand the business side, which is a big component in lasting value.
Yeah.
And then writing songs.
Yeah.
The people that make it are the ones, because that's where the money is.
Yeah.
Is in that writers, they get half the royalty, and then all the performers have to share the other half of the royalty.
Yeah, actually, most of the performers get no royalty. It's the songwriters and the publishers that split the royalty.
Right.
The performers get whatever you get when you go out and perform. Now, a lot of the bigger artists, what they do, let's say you and I write a beautiful song, and we write it for, pick an artist, let's say Amy Grant back in the day, okay? If we wrote a song for Amy Grant, her management, for us to be able to put that song on her album, they would make us name her as a writer.
Yes. Yep.
To give her writing credit, so she gets a portion of that, okay? Yep. That's how that works. Or her publishing company, which she owns, would get a portion of it, whether she ever had anything to do with the writing or not.
Yeah.
That's how they do it. But as far as that's why a lot of artists are penniless today, even though they did these big hits. Yeah. Because they never got any royalties.
I went to see David Meese, about 20 years ago, long after his big run of the 80s, right? And he said, it's tough. I go on concerts. I'm trying to promote my new stuff, but I have to actually pay to sing my old stuff because Word owns all the old stuff.
All the publishing, yeah.
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 And it's a difficult thing. In fact, one of my friends was good friends with a group out of John Brown University over here in Siloam Springs. Right. Well, they went to Nashville, finally got signed to Word, but Word said you have to sign over, because they'd already done 3 independent albums that were really good stuff. You have to sign over the rights to all your past library over to us.
Yeah.
And then they owned nothing at all.
Yeah, see,
and they said it was the biggest mistake. And they kept saying to my son, oh, you were so smart to stay independent. Because you don't need a record deal, you need a distribution deal.
Right.
And you know that, So here's a little shop talk on the music industry to start up the
inside stuff, the dirty details on the record industry. Right. No, it is. It's a very. We could go into things. I've got some real stuff that made me actually. That's why I got out of it, because it was. Yeah. It's just not a.
It's a nasty. In fact, my son.
Even the Christian thing ended up being just as nasty as if not worse, because everybody figured because they're Christian, they're beyond that, so we're not going to look at that as hard as we would the secular, but payola and all that. It just got bad. It was just bad.
And I just want to say, my son decided when probably his best commercial success album in 2009, he released it, and he said, Dad, I'm not going to tour. And I said, that's an essential. He says, I do not like the culture of touring. I see these people. I see what it does to them. I'm not going to do that. So he signed with a couple of agents to pitch his music to Hollywood, to TV, to commercials, and he's had great success. Nice, still getting royalty checks. He had a #1 hit in Germany, but he's had almost no airplay in the United States.
Yeah, it's funny.
Because he doesn't want to play the game.
Yeah, it's funny because Al-Kir, the guitar player, is a good friend of mine. He told me he gets these royalty checks from Europe because of Germany. Yeah. Germany, he couldn't believe when he first got checked. He said, Eddie, do you know why I got this check from Germany? He couldn't believe it because he got this giant check from Germany and nothing from the States, Yeah, so it's like that. And But yours is not the first. Your son's not the first one I know. For example, John Elefante, who was lead singer for Kansas.
Yes. And then AD and
he jumped in there, and after Steve Walsh left the group, and then John was like that. He left. He couldn't. He said touring he couldn't handle it. He hated the touring. It was just awful.
Oh yeah, and you look at like Steve Perry with Journey. Now, he admittedly had his own mental health issues and frailties, but I got at the height of international global acclaim. I mean, they were top of the arena bands. And like, I can't do it. Can't do it.
Yeah.
So anyway, it's interesting what the music industry is like, and how people. It isn't so much that you got to be the best performer, write the best songs. Just entertain us.
Yeah.
You know. Now I want to get back to what you're saying about the evangelist, because I had a pastor that when in my young, very impressionable years, he had been an evangelist and then became a pastor. And I said, so what is really the key to effective evangelism? Now,
is it how you say the word holy?
Yeah, at the end of every word.
Holy.
He said,
God.
when you're invited to a church, he said, spend time in prayer, spend time really trying to hear what the people are saying to you. He says, every church has its own culture, and every church has its own battles in their strongholds. And he says, and you've got to find what's the thing holding that church back and address it and break through. And when that church gets that breakthrough, then you got revival. He says, and when souls are liberated, spirits are liberated from this bondage that they've been in, and the whole church feels it. He says, you're going to see lives change. He says, the problem is, if they're not ready to let go of that bondage, they'll turn on you. They'll never invite you back. Sometimes, he said, you can speak close to home, but their hearts aren't ready. And you know what? I'm not trying to judge your church, but maybe they aren't ready to let go of their attitudes about that cigarette in his pocket.
Maybe there are too many smokers.
I don't know.
I don't know. No, I don't know either, but I think it was a little shocking to them. But I thought it was the funniest thing I've seen.
Sure.
I was just shocked. I mean, obviously, okay, first of all, let's get practical, okay?
Mm-hmm.
It was not a real cigarette, okay? I mean,
it's probably an e-cigarette.
It was an e-cigarette. Mm-hmm. It had to be an e-cigarette or something like that, right? Okay, so
which means that was steam coming out.
Steam, hello, exactly. Yeah. And so I thought it was ingenious.
Sure.
To do that. It reminds me of Keith Green.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, those of you that don't, Keith Green, Jewish, came to the Lord, became basically an evangelist.
Yeah.
Started Last Days Ministry.
Incredible legacy there.
Yeah. And what started his mega rise was right here at Oral Roberts. I don't know if you know about this. He came.
Melody wrote about that in her book. It's incredible.
Yeah. He came, and I think he was supposed to be here one night and ended up being here a week, and just a revival. Kids at Oral Roberts University just repenting, coming forward.
Oh, it's amazing.
And everything. Well, anyway, and he was an artist with Sparrow Records, Christian label, but he worked a deal.
Yeah, he did.
Where he got a hold of his own music, and so what he did, he would send you a free, if you wrote him, and he would mail you a free cassette or record album. You didn't have to pay him anything, and you could just give a gift, whatever you wanted to or could give him. So he had people sending gifts of $50 and $100 for a $10 cassette. Anyway, he ended up basically making millions of dollars by just giving away his stuff.
Yeah.
And they bought a ranch down in near Tyler, Texas.
Yeah, Lindell.
Mm-hmm. And tragically, he died in a plane crash with three of his children, and then another family of 8.
Yeah.
They overloaded the airplane.
Yep. It was a new airplane. They didn't know.
Well, they overloaded. It was the middle of the summer. Full fuel tank, and pilot never got it. Hit some trees. And anyway, but it's funny. I don't think I ever told you this, but my wife and I, we spent a day with he and his wife a month beforehand.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he had come to stay with Youth with a Mission, and we put him up there in Holland, and then following their stay, they stayed first in Amsterdam and then out at this farm that we were at and then we drove them to Germany and put them on a train in Germany for them to take a tour through Germany, and I think they went to Austria as well, and then they came back, and I still remember being in this meeting when they came in and told us it was a leaders meeting there in Amsterdam. Told us that Keith had been killed in this plane crash. It was a real tragedy. And he had been doing these big meetings. He was so touched by his coming over to be with YWAM to visit us that he had, all of a sudden, his whole vision became about missions. And he came up with the saying that missions is not as much about crossing the sea as it is seeing the cross.
Catchy.
Yeah, it is. But they would start doing these giant meetings with YWAM, and we would send people to be there to sign people up, and people would sign up to come do these summers of service with Youth with a Mission to come over. In fact, Oral Roberts for several years sent teams over and be with us, work with us on the streets of Amsterdam, different places. So, but anyway, that was going back. So we've taken you on a little trip, discussed the music industry a little bit.
No, I just want to say, a friend of mine, I run into Larry Norman at a music festival, and we say, Keith Green's giving away his albums, And Larry says, you know what? If you can afford a record player, I think you can afford an album.
That's Larry.
He always had a witty comeback.
That's Larry.
Yeah.
I had one personal experience with Larry, but we won't go into that.
Yeah.
You talk about the other end of the spectrum. Larry, no, he was his own person. I don't think Larry was a bad guy. I'm not going to talk about him. He would fall into your musical genius category. Yeah. Like so many geniuses, he had layers. Many of his layers happened to not be fully baked. I think what probably was his problem, and yet he was a musical genius. He was a very.
That's what you get when you get super creative people. Their whole lives are built on developing a part of their brain. In my work in teaching about mental health and what I've had to learn, because when it hits your family, then all of a sudden you got to be aware of it. One of the quotes is, left-handers are actually seen as more creative. Yeah, I'm lefty. I thought.
Or destructive.
Yes, less coordinated, but more creative, right? But we also have a higher instance of mental illness. That's just one of the things.
Speak for yourself.
But you develop certain areas of your brain, but maybe not others. And that's why most musicians are horrible business people, which ends up killing their effectiveness in the music industry.
Athletes, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
But see, I personally, I'm brain dexterous.
Yeah.
Did you get that?
Yes.
And brain dexterous.
Yes.
Okay. So anyway, we got to leave this, Dave.
Yeah.
We've got real issues to talk about that you people I know are just dying to hear about.
So getting back to our point, we got new bumper music. That's where we got off.
You played it, didn't you?
Yeah, you did.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
I was going to say, wait a minute, did I not?
How do we get off on a thing like that?
Yeah, because I didn't turn your mic on. I played the bumper music. Should I play it again?
I got 3 quick headlines from Babylon to
cleanse our palate. We're going to go back. We're going to transition, as this new White House administration likes to talk about transitioning. We're going to transition into Babylon B, and then we'll get into.
You heard about Brittany Griner's little bit of legal problem in Russia. Well, she was sentenced with 9 years of not having to hear the U.S. national anthem. Okay?
Oh, no. If they really want to torture her in Russia, they should play it every morning to wake her up. That would be, my goodness. Can you imagine? They just play it nonstop.
All right.
Okay.
That was number 3. There's a countdown. Number 2, Alex Jones ordered to pay the fraud community $4.1 million for calling them gay. And number 1.
Uh-oh. I'm trying to get my drum roll together.
Young family outsmarts the local public school by sending their son in a dress on the first day, so they'll immediately teach him how to be a boy. I know. I had to paraphrase that. I couldn't find it here.
Oh, my goodness. Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, what happened? All of a sudden, our schools are not only, on the 1619 Project, critical race theory, but then they want to turn, these kids who are born male into female. They want to turn the, girls who are born female into male. Hello, whatever happened to the 3 R's?
Yeah, I'm afraid to say what the 3 R's stand for these days. But you know what, Dave? Mm-hmm. I'm going to do this.
Oh, no. We had extended show prep today.
Extended show prep on this.
Actually, I've got it on there, though.
I know.
Okay.
So
you got something extra if you saw us in the big camera. Now that we got that out of our system.
Yes, we have it out of our system, Dave.
Let's get out of the show.
What did they say on Seinfeld? Serenity now. Serenity now.
Yeah, that wasn't Kramer who said that, was it?
No, it was George's dad, remember?
Okay, yes.
George's dad. Only he didn't say it Serenity now. He said Serenity now. Seinfeld still ranks to me as one of the as the funniest show on television.
Yeah.
Seinfeld was, I don't know how they did it, but what they did, they were able to capture the craziness of every culture.
Yeah. Jerry.
Jewish, Muslim, black, white, Latino, Indian, whatever you were back in a politically correctness-free America. When America was still free, that was Seinfeld.
And I got to say, my favorite character on Seinfeld
was George's dad.
It was Jerry Stiller.
Oh, Jerry Stiller. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
He's the one that was the brilliance of the Festivus.
Festivus for the rest of us.
Very disappointed in all of you. If you haven't seen Festivus episode, you just don't know.
Yeah, tragically, his wife, she passed away. I guess did Jerry
did
Jerry's
last
gone
year.
too.
Yeah.
And do you remember? You're probably old enough, I would imagine, to remember Jerry Stiller and his wife on Ed Sullivan. Did you ever?
No.
Were you old enough to watch Ed Sullivan?
I wasn't old enough. I just lived out in the sticks where all we got was NBC, and Sullivan was a CBS show.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
you're right.
It wasn't until high school I finally got cable, and cable was all 4 networks, including PBS. 4 channels.
All 4.
Yes.
That just doesn't even sound right. Yeah, Jerry Stiller and Helen Mirren.
Yeah.
Was her name, Helen Mirren. It used to be called Stiller and Mirren. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm trying to do my worst Ed Sullivan impression. But anyway, we got Stiller and Mirren. and here would come Ben Stiller's parents. But they would do some funny stuff. But his greatest character was George's dad. He was so funny, and the mom too. I think the greatest part of that show was the casting, how they picked these people.
Oh yeah.
Do you remember Jerry's uncle?
Trying to remember.
Yeah, you'd see him. He was just a sleazeball. The guy. And what was funny, all the coincidental things, they would throw away a watch, and somebody would happen to find it, but it just happened to be somebody that was related to them. Even Jackie Childs, the lawyer. You remember the black lawyer?
Oh, that was a spin-off of
Johnny Cochran.
Johnny Cochran.
Johnny
yeah.
Cochran.
God, yeah. It was
And,
over the top.
But it was perfect. I mean, they nailed these people.
Yes.
I mean, they really nailed who they were trying to copy. And the stuff they did was just it was precious. I mean, I think you can buy the CDs and of all of the old Seinfeld shows, and somewhere you can find. I don't know if I would imagine on the DVD. Did I say CDs? I'm sorry, DVDs. I don't know if you can still get that one episode we talked about before, the Puerto Rican Pride Day.
Oh God.
That I think there were a couple that were considered racially insensitive, but oh man, the Jackie Childs one is one that those episodes that they had with that guy. In fact, that guy I think passed away. The guy who played him, I think he's passed away now. So many of those people have passed away, but it was just really, it captured the I don't. In a way, I want to say innocence, even in their failings, the failings of those characters, right? But it was kind of an innocence in their failings. I'll tell you exactly what I think it is. It captured fallen man.
Yes.
Right?
Yes, and you still felt endeared to that character.
Yeah.
You didn't despise them.
No, because they represented the average person, especially in New York.
Yeah.
Elaine with her crazy self.
Yes. I'm not a bad person. I just screw up.
Or I am a screw up. I am screwed up. I mean, and she was. She was one messed up person.
Yeah.
Kramer. Oh my goodness. Kramer was about as bad as. Kramer. He started on it was supposed to be an ABC counter to Saturday Night Live. It was called Fridays.
Okay.
It didn't last.
Right.
It lasted maybe, I don't know, half a season or something. And I'll never remember, he played a guy that had a condition, I don't know what you call it. This is like in the days, seriously, where there was no such thing as politically incorrect. Okay? But he's sitting at a bar, and the guy has a speech impediment. And the bartender's there, and this is Kramer now. And so he's sitting at the bar, and he tells the bartender, hey man, can you give me a bourbon on the rocks? And that bartender says, sure man, coming right up. And so he pours the guy a drink. How much is that? $2.50. So another guy comes up and says, give me a gin straight. All right, man, coming right up. Of course, Kramer. Hey, man, come here. Are you making fun of me? Were you making fun of me? Me? No. I'm making fun of him.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
I mean, this is the stuff Kramer started out doing.
Yeah.
And then it has this other one where he's at the bar again, and it's a different one, but, there's this attractive lady sitting at the bar, and he's all, no talking, but he's all smoking. Back in then, they were still smoking, and he's trying to saunters over to the ladies, and she said, like, get out of my face, creep, what are you doing here? And then all of a sudden, this black guy walks in next to her and says, hey, and he kisses her, and all of a sudden he goes, and the black guy looks at him like, and she goes, it's like all of a sudden, and Kramer's going,
oh God!
This is the kind of they did to me. They did more without words than Saturday Night Live does.
Oh
but the show just never made it. But that just showed how good he was at at his craft.
Yes.
You know, and then of course he got in all that. You remember the trouble he got into? He was calling somebody nigger on
Oh yeah,
one of his
stand-up
live,
comedy.
yeah, on his live show. He got somebody was doing something or saying that
Well, he was being heckled,
right,
and then he just
he lost it.
Yeah.
He lost it, and you can't do that. Especially, he might have been able to get away with it in the '80s, you know, or even late '90s, but that was the end of his career. So it's just, it's just one of those things that where we are. Anyway, hey. We said we're going to move on, so we better move on to. We got your Babylon Bee out of the way.
Yeah.
All right. So, what are the big? Let's go to the primaries. Let's start right there. Let's start right with some good news.
Yes.
The president, El Presidente, Donaldo Trumpo, as they call him on what's that site? I can't think of the name of the site right now. I read it. It's one of these newer sites that's on, but they call it El Presidente Donaldo Trumpo, and he's always responding. But it's not him. It's somebody else, but it's in Spanish.
Oh, okay.
Or it's broken English. It's like he would be, Latino. But anyway, they were really commenting on the fact that he ran the table this week on Tuesday in the primaries.
Yes, there were 5 states holding primaries to various degrees, depending what offices are up. And of all the races that Donald went in and endorsed, he ran the slate.
Wow. How many is that? How many races? There's quite a few.
Yeah,
I think there were 5 in Arizona, weren't there?
Yeah, it's a big one. Now, Tudor Dixon, who I've been great respect for her, in Michigan, he endorsed her. She overwhelmingly won the Republican nod to take on Gretchen Whitmer.
Oh, man.
So that race is set.
She's got it.
And then one of the heirs to the major grocery store company, Congressman Major, who was one of 10 Republicans who voted for impeachment, got beat by an unknown. Absolute beat by, it was a 3 or 4 point, maybe a little bit more than that. But it's interesting how the numbers came in. It just really, to me, it reiterated why elections are done differently in different states. And I think what we saw, now let's move on to Arizona, where there's a huge slate that he did, from governor, attorney general, secretary of state, and help me out, there was one more.
Congress.
And then there were Congress there too, but U.S. Senate. Yes, Masters. Yeah, so Masters had quite a slate. There was a lot of money being thrown in late against him, but he still won by double digits.
Yeah, have you heard the report that they're saying there's a lot of controversy about it, that the DNC apparently was paying. This is kind of a weird deal, but they're saying that the DNC was actually funneling money to the GOP candidates.
Yes.
That they thought would be easier to beat in the general election.
Yes.
And so a lot of the big money donors that gave money to the DNC, Hollywood people, are really ticked off now.
Yes.
They're mad because they gave their money thinking the money was going to Democrats, but instead the money went to Republicans.
And the congressman, the grocery store heir in Michigan, was one of those. He thought he endeared himself to the left by voting to impeach Trump. And then they selectively went after to throw him out with a real conservative beating him. And then in Washington State, there's another one. I don't have the name on that one, but in that one, they still haven't finished counting the votes.
Yeah.
So that's real close. And but the big thing for me was interesting. You watch as the returns come in Tuesday night, and Kari Lake is down by just about double digits till nearly midnight.
I know. I went to bed thinking, oh, well, okay.
Yeah. Here's what thing. I was glad I watched Real America's Voice coverage. Charlie Kirk came on. First, he had live from Studio 6B up until about 9, maybe 10 o'clock. And then Charlie Kirk came in. Now, Charlie's from Arizona. He understands the Arizona thing. And I remember this from 2000 when McCain was taking on G.W. Bush for the presidential nomination. And he starts pitching, because Arizona was one of the early primaries, to get people starting requesting their ballots. In Arizona, it's just a thing. People, to a much greater degree, do their voting by mail. And they have like 3 or 4 weeks to request their ballot, and you get it. And so what happened, Kari Lake and a lot of the people who, believe that Trump really got screwed over, in Arizona particularly, in the election, that there's corruption, there's definitely cover-up, they don't trust that mail-in system.
Right.
So they waited till Election Day. Well, it ends up, like Oklahoma, they count all the absentee ballots first before they do the Election Day precinct returns.
I see.
So that's why they didn't even start reporting those numbers till nearly midnight our time.
Yeah, because I went to bed and she was behind by like 5,000 or 6,000 votes.
Yeah.
I wake up, she's up by 9.
Yes.
And that's when it was contested. And every day, all of a sudden, it grew and grew and grew. And I think she ended up, when they called it, I think she was up by almost 13,000. It kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger.
And the thing was, Charlie Kirk was encouraging everybody, saying, guys, none of these that have been reported have been the Election Day numbers. And I said, in my mind, I was saying, Charlie, it says 62% of the vote is in. And she's down 9%. Yeah. And he's still saying no. And then, sure enough, before they even actually saw the numbers, people who had been doing what we call poll running, it's people that run around because, like here in Oklahoma, and I've done it several times, where you go down to your election board, it's locked up and everything, but they ran a tape of all the tallies from their machine, and they post it at a window or the door, and so you can see it. And several people showed up at Blake Masters' watch party, Kari Lake's party, and says, here are the numbers from precinct such and such. Kari Lake is by better than 2-1 winning the election days. Mm-hmm. And so we hear that. I'm like, okay, that sounds plausible. Maybe there is hope. Right. It was great. So hats off to Charlie Kirk and, in his whole bunch, the big Turning Point USA. There you go.
The greatest thing to me in this whole election day, this primary election day, was that it will silence the mouths of all of these Pence people. Yeah. For a while, at least. Well, they were really hoping, a lot of these Republicans, and especially I'm really starting to get more and more ticked off at Fox News.
Yes.
Brett Baer should be Brett Rat.
I've got no use for that man anymore.
No, he is just a rat. And Kari Lake, I don't know if you saw what went on.
Yes,
between
that
him
was
and
the week before, right?
Where he ambushed her and tried to make her look bad. And to her credit, she is a female version of Donald Trump. She's fearless. She
might even be better than Donald Trump at it.
Well, maybe.
Because this is a media interview. That's her element. That's her career.
That's true. Yeah, you're right. My wife, I've never seen anyone that my wife has that immediately been just impressed by.
Yeah.
My wife hadn't seen her, and then I said, come look at this. And everything about Kari Lake, the tenor of her voice, have you ever noticed?
Oh, rich alto voice.
It's like in Germany, whenever you watch German television, they have these ladies coming in between. Guten Abend, meine Damen und Herren, das ist die CDF today. And you just sit there.
Yeah, it's a rich alto voice with a resonance.
Exactly. And the way and not only that, but the way she uses it, her makeup, her hairstyle, her clothing, everything, and she's a very attractive person and smart as a whip.
Yes,
I've never seen anybody, to me, well, I'm sure I've seen somebody, but in the political arena that comes across as well prepared for the media
Yes.
as her.
She knows every trick in the book that they play. She read their notes. She knows what they're going to do.
Yeah.
Because she's done it.
Yeah.
Right? Now, she used to be an Obama supporter.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
So she's seen
They tried
the light.
to use that against her.
Yeah.
And but she can turn the stuff around.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Hey, Ronald Reagan said, I didn't leave the Democrat Party. They left me.
Yeah, and that should actually, they want to use it against her, and all she has to say, that should give me credibility, because I was hoodwinked. You can, as George W. Bush said, you can fool me once. That's it. And I learned my lesson.
Yeah. Now, speaking of George Bush, his handler all his years is Karl Rove.
Yeah.
Let me tell you,
he's another
that's
snake.
the one we're dealing with. Not even Mike Pence so much. Karl Rove controls dark money in the tens of millions of dollars. And that's just what he spent in Arizona.
These people need to quit giving their money to Karl Rove.
That's it.
They need to quit giving their money to Karl Rove.
Yeah.
And find out anything he's associated with, cut it off.
Yeah.
That's what needs to happen.
Yeah.
And I'm glad. I mean, they need to soundly defeat every person in every state that I'm pounding the table like you normally. You're sitting there nice and politely, and I'm not. In every state, they need to just soundly defeat anybody. Pence, every candidate that Pence comes up against, they're trying to now push up Ron DeSantis, who I love Ron DeSantis, great, but wait. Kristi Noem, she is my personal pick for either president or vice president in the future. But as I said, future. Let her have her run as governor, continue to do what she does. Carrie Lake, we got to see. Let us see. Don't throw these people up there too quickly.
Right. Absolutely.
Let them prove what they can do on the executive level in their state. Once they've done that, then let's talk about it. Hey, I wouldn't be opposed to a Nome Lake Nome, 2 women. I don't care. If they're the right people, if they do a good job, more power to them. I'm not a chauvinist. I just want the right people doing the right thing. Okay? Honestly. I'm not one of these guys that, he hates women. No, I don't hate women. There's certain women I hate, but not, hate's a strong word. There's certain women I do not want in political office, and there's a whole bunch of them up there in Washington, D.C. right now that have no business being there. So, they're, to me, probably the most honest and most powerful and most straightforward politicians we have right now in government are women. I mean, I don't trust 90% of the guys we have in Washington right now, in the House and Senate. I just don't. I'm sorry. I don't trust them. But I trust these ladies.
Well, I trust an outsider. I'll say that. And most of these ladies you're talking about are outsiders.
Yeah, that's
you
true.
know,
That's true.
and it's
the one you named Tudor. It's weird.
Tudor Dixon.
You cannot pick a weirder name than that. Tudor Dixon. Hey, Tudor.
Yeah.
Tudor. Tudor. Hey, Tudor. Is that her real name, or is that short for something else?
It's the only name I've ever. You know, she was a broadcaster. She was on Real America's Voice.
Oh, she's another one. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
So anyway. Oh,
Yeah.
but you know, what's her name is shaking in her boots. The Michigan governor.
Oh, Whitmer, yes.
And she's already coming out with lies and making up stuff and
Right.
attacking.
Tudor Dixon's acceptance speech that night, or her victory speech, it was a masterpiece.
Oh, it was. Yeah.
Yeah, it was just amazing. In fact, the next day, Bannon had her on,
Yeah.
you know, and then yesterday, you know, Carrie Lake was on with Bannon's War Room show.
Yeah, Newsmax had Tudor on the next day. And it's like, but Whitmer is just scared to death. I mean, you can tell she is shaking in her boots because she couldn't wait till the votes were counted. She's already attacking her.
Yeah.
Which means she is scared. And she needs to be scared. What's the old saying? Be afraid, be very afraid.
Yeah. I want to say something about Carrie Hobbs, who Carrie Lake is now going up against. The evil of her manipulating and using her office to slow walk the balloting, to deny Carrie Lake the election night victory speech. I'm sorry, thank God Mark Fincham won the Secretary of State's primary, and is going to be, and I think Fincham's a shoo-in. By the way, he had the best numbers. He was up against some opponents. One of the things, and this was good, one of the campaign pollsters that Charlie Kirk was interviewing, he said, you know what? Blake Masters, Mark Fincham, they aren't really doing any better than Carrie Lake. What they're benefiting from is split opposition. See, Blake Masters had two strong opponents who split the anti-Trump vote. And Carrie Lake really didn't. That was just straight up the Karl Rove people all consolidated to Robson, And now she still won it handily by over 13,000 votes. It was still it's one you would call a tight race still, 3-point margin victory. But Mark Fincham was the one that was just a hands down consensus. So, and that's who's going to be cleaning up the entire election process. Now, he's been a member of the legislature and has been hot on the issue of investigating this. So this is a guy who's been in the belly of the beast digging up. He's the one that exposed erasing all of the sign-in records for the voting machines. That was a deliberate act. All done, over 1,000 sign-ins in one day, because it's one of those where it dumps the oldest off and keeps the last 1,000 logins. So they erased all the history. That was Maricopa County.
Yeah. Of course.
Yeah. Now, one of the things Oklahoma does, and Oklahoma does a lot of things right. This week, I went down to the election board and talked to the Tulsa County election board secretary, Gwen Freeman, one of your old fellow alum from KFAQ. And, we just talked about all the safeguards. The Oklahoma election board just went through an audit and came out looking sparkling clean.
Good.
So Oklahoma does a lot of things right. One of the things we do is we don't let counties do a lot of monkey business like they do in Arizona. In fact, Arizona and Pinal County, they didn't even publish enough ballots for Election Day. And you know what? The county commissioners who actually hired the election board guy, you don't do that in Oklahoma. The clerk of the Senate in Oklahoma hires the whole network of 70-some. But anyway, so yeah, they fired him. Got somebody competent in there. Oklahoma does a number of things right. We don't contract with Dominion or anyone else. The state workers themselves run those machines.
Yeah, that's the way it needs to happen. You can't be farming this out to some national network because it's too easy to get in there and good, big money comes in. Soros and other people have their potential. Hey, I want to move to another state, Georgia.
Yes.
Herschel Walker up for a Senate seat.
Yep.
All right. Now, two things. The current senator that Herschel is going up against, I can't think of his name right off the...
Warlock?
Warlock.
Yeah.
Warnock.
Okay.
You said...
Warnock the Warlock.
Warnock the Warlock. Yeah. You got close enough for you to remember what it is. It's not Warlock.
Yeah.
He may be a warlock, but he's not. No. Common sense would tell the average person that Warnock is not the right person for the job. Okay, that's for sure. The problem is, and a lot of people are really down on Herschel because they don't think he's smart enough. They don't think he's cut for the job of senator. Okay, that's what they think. I think he is. Here's the problem: Herschel is not a very literate's not the word I'm thinking.
He's not a good communicator.
Not a good communicator. What is not a good verbal communicator?
Yeah.
There's another term for that, but
he's not eloquent.
Exactly. He's not eloquent.
Yeah.
And therefore, he has issues with that. Also, he is a very, very, very strong Christian. Okay. He is, a lot of people would say, wears God on his sleeve.
Sure.
Which people hate. I don't have a problem with it. Dave doesn't have a problem with it. But in politics, it can be seen as a detriment. So I don't know who his handlers are, who the people behind him, with him, around him, or how coachable he is, how teachable he is. There's a way to communicate. For example, Carrie Lake. I don't know if you saw the video. It was on YouTube. I posted it on Facebook if anyone's interested. Right after she was speaking somewhere, or it was at a rally. She was at a big rally, and she says, there's one person that has been kicked out of our country, leading our country. And then everybody, yeah. She says, no, it's not who you think I'm talking about. They all think it's Donald Trump. She said, no, it's him. I'm getting goosebumps because the way, again, it's one of these things, you talk about an effective communicator.
Yeah.
It turned the whole thing around that she's talking about God. And she says, and we've got to bring him back. And so then she gets the entire place to pray.
Yeah.
And then after she wins, it showed her election, her whole team, and they all gather to pray.
Yeah.
So there's a way of honoring God and bringing God into it, and marshaling the power of God without your entire conversation, every word. It's something I had to learn. When I was a young believer, I was offered a job teaching in El Cerritos, California, high school. And I went into the interview basically telling them essentially that I was going to evangelize the whole high school. In California, in Southern California, right? Needless to say, I didn't get a call back.
No, you didn't.
I had the job. I mean, the job was mine, but I basically told them I didn't want it because of what I told them I was going to do. So you have to learn how to carry the light of God within you in a way that you're not throwing flames. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And this is what Herschel has. Somebody needs to take him aside. Sit, listen. I'm not doing that to you. I'm doing that to Herschel.
I'm thinking about this advice.
Yeah. We know you love the Lord. The Lord knows you love him. Now, let the love of God come through you in a different way. Okay, and here's how we're going to do it. And have some advisors come in and work with him. Here's what the people of Georgia really need right now. You're in Georgia. Georgia is full of preachers. Okay?
Yeah.
Georgia has got probably more preachers than Oklahoma.
Yeah, very
Texas.
fundamentalist Baptist, fundamentalist Pentecostal, right?
Exactly. They've got everything. They're not, it's like Jerry Falwell said, right? We're not electing a deacon. We're not electing a pastor. We're electing a senator. We need a senator. Now, once you get there, you get on your knees before God and ask how you're supposed to vote, how you're supposed to influence, how you're supposed to affect.
Yeah.
We don't need you. We're not sending you there to preach. We're not sending you there to evangelize. We're not sending you. We're sending you there to make laws and to legislate. And this is what he has to learn. And then through your legislating, make it free, make it available for others, to preachers to preach, evangelists to evangelize, for pastors to pastor.
Yeah.
That's what I think somebody needs to get a hold of him, that he has more ability to affect the change by doing what that job, it's just a job description, right?
Yeah.
What is your job description? Your job, you're not being sent to Washington to be a pastor or an evangelist. You're being sent to be a senator.
Yeah.
you be a senator so that pastors can be a pastor, because if we don't have the right senators, there won't be pastors.
Yeah, I've actually got 3 points. You've given us such a rich message here to feast on. So often over the past, I'll say 50 years, society, media, has really tried to suppress people from expressing their deeply held convictions and religious views. And you're almost shamed, for using that. Wow, separation of church and state, da-da-da. Actually, Glenn Beck was one of the first in conservative talk radio that I saw really start to be more open about his driving convictions coming from his faith. And then I saw over the last, 10 years, I've seen more and more of that at talk radio, where people felt more free to talk about the basis for their public policy, rooted in their faith. I've always said this: those who will embrace religion for votes will abandon religion for votes. So you really have to know, is this who Herschel Walker's always been? And I believe it is. So I believe this is genuine.
See, here's one of the problems that he's going to have, okay, with evangelicals, okay? He's got an openly gay son.
Yeah.
Okay, overtly gay.
Sure.
Okay. So a lot of really ultra-conservative Christians are going to say, well, if you're so Christian, how does your son end up gay?
No. I'll walk right through it. Because you know what? Every one of us has a family member or relative who's been in that same predicament.
Well.
And where he's like, you know what? That's their decision.
Dave. Okay. You're talking to you and I.
Yeah.
Who are rational.
Well, I'm really talking to the camera, but we're having a conversation.
Yes, I understand. But a lot of the, and we're not speaking to you because our audience are different. You're above that, okay?
Yeah.
But I'm talking to a lot of voters. I'm talking to people in churches in rural Georgia, Alabama, Mississippi, Texas, all over the country.
Sure.
Okay. First of all, in Georgia, he's black. And then you got a gay son. What's wrong with him? That kind of stuff. Yeah, there's got to be something wrong with that boy.
Yeah.
I'm being a devil's advocate.
I'm going to fall on what John Ashcroft said when he was facing Senate confirmation as Attorney General in 2001 for George W. Bush. And a Democrat said, you and your family, your parents, you've been high up in the Assembly of God Church, which is an ultra-conservative, and you're just going to use this to impose your version of Christianity on all this. And he said, Senator, it is against my religion to impose my religion on anyone.
I understand. What I'm saying is this, Dave. I don't think Herschel's son has to be heterosexual or Christian for him to be. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I'm not judging Herschel by his son.
Yeah.
His son has to stand before God on his own.
Right.
As your kids
and
my kids.
I'm just addressing that out, what the public is going to somehow judge Herschel because of the choices of his adult son.
You give the public too much credit. They're sadly, my experience has been that the public is rough.
Sure they are.
The public is rough, and they don't cut slack like you and I might.
You know what?
I don't have a problem. That's Herschel's problem.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
You don't have a problem because you think that's Herschel's issue. He's got to deal with his son. His son has to deal with that. I'm just saying these are the things that Herschel is facing in a race.
And here's what I think.
Okay.
Many times you will hear reasons given that are nothing but excuses, and they're not the real reason, but they're the convenient reason to give. And if they've got a problem, if that's the one thing holding them back from voting for Herschel Walker, I don't believe it.
But, well, if it's a reason, oh no, maybe not. But when you compound them, when you add one on top of the other, okay, you've got a guy who's not articulate is the term. Thank you. It came to me. You've got a guy that's not that articulate. He's got a gay son. He played for the Dallas Cowboys instead of the Atlanta Falcons or Minnesota Vikings. No, listen, stop.
Yeah, I know, but they don't understand the business of football. That's
right. But I'm telling you, this is your typical rural voter. They don't stop to think about these things. I'm just saying, they've got this little thing in the back of their mind. It's a ticker, and it piles up, and then they got these evil Democrats here that are adding to it.
Yeah, I know.
Here's something else you don't need to.
Yeah, Democrat voters may be that stupid.
Here's something else. Here's something else. Here's something else. And see, they don't have to convince Republicans to vote for Warlock, as you want to call it. They don't. All they have to do is get the Republicans to stay home.
Yeah,
that's all they have to do.
That's a good point.
You get enough. You get enough Democrats to vote, and you get the Republicans to stay home. That's my only concern. So. All I'm saying is, Herschel, if you hear me, if anybody knows Herschel, walk softly, carry a big stick. Talk softly, speak softly. In other words, you do not have to be preaching, speaking Jesus, every interview, everything you say. We know. People know that you love the Lord, okay? The Lord knows you love him. You just deal with the issues. Get somebody to tell you what the issues are. Become the best known on the issues and what they will do for America.
Right.
And then once the people understand that, tell them why Mr. Warnock should not be a senator representing Georgia, why you should be the senator representing Georgia. And then once you get there, you hit your knees and you stay on your knees, you pray, you fast, you do whatever, and you make the decisions and you make a difference in our nation that way. That's all I'm saying.
Okay. I'm going to come alongside you and say something pretty similar, but I'm going to use different words.
Okay.
I think you're going to like. Okay. Too often, us church folk develop our own vernacular.
Right.
And then when we're communicating, you and I know what we're saying. But the unchurched person doesn't have a clue. Now we got a disconnect. And now all of a sudden we're making him look like he's stupid because he doesn't understand us. Right. I'll tell you who avoids that really well, Ron DeSantis. When he does bring up values that are based in faith, he expresses them in a way that a person who may not share that insight or that culture, he expresses the real world impact. You don't treat children this way. You don't expose your kids to this. Okay? He's not throwing a bunch of scripture and using a bunch of theological terms. He's talking about things that parents understand.
Biblical principles in a real world.
Yes. So there's that. Now, I also want to expand a little bit when I talk about trying to decipher who's really expressing a genuine, heartfelt religious conviction. Because here in Oklahoma, we have a lot of people that all of a sudden decided that there's more political opportunity for them if they'll re-register as Republican and run as a Republican. And now you got to know who's the real deal and who's the phony. And I'm hearing, I'll just say, T.W. Shannon. He's got all these ads now on Newsmax that's just, it's like he's talking to the church board.
We got a mailer like that, yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And I'm like, okay, TW, if I'd heard you talking that way, and I've run into TW and I've had conversations, I haven't seen this intensity. Now all of a sudden we've got it.
It's the Reverend TW now.
Yeah. Gee whiz. Now, here's where I'm going with this. I've worked with the Inhofe family for, since the 80s. And one thing I knew about Jim Inhofe, smart politician, but the real driving conviction that I believe made him so valuable to conservatives was his sister, Joanne Johnson. and she was head of Eagle Forum in Oklahoma. And that woman was an organizer. She was a communicator. She just great person. She died about 10 years ago. And I knew the influence that she had on her brother. And I've seen what's happened in the last 10 years. And I don't like what I've seen out of Jim Inhofe the last 10 years comparatively. I mean, I'm still, in a lot of ways, I'm really proud of him standing up for Oklahoma values. But I've seen him become more of a godfather and a power broker. And he's gotten involved in some corruption as a result. And I watched him, make deals, and he had Mullen in line with him. And finally, Mullen had enough, and they had a falling out here. And that was about the time I started seeing Mullen actually being his own man. And now I'm more impressed with Mullen than I was 6 years ago. I just don't like that power broker DC insider thing. I'm not saying Inhofe's a phony. I'm saying
I think I'll tell you what I think. I tell you what I think in Jim's case. I really do. I think he's the tired old lion.
Yeah.
I think he should have retired last time.
Yes, I don't think he should have run. In fact, I voiced my concerns pretty loudly, and a lot of Republicans got furious at me for voicing those concerns. But here's the thing. A lot of it's in who you surround yourself with. And back in the 80s and the 90s, Inhofe would always say, I come home every weekend. And I'll tell you why. Because if you set up house in D.C. and stay there, and that you will be absorbed into that culture, and I don't want to. Now, I'm not saying Inhofe doesn't still have a house up at Grand Lake, and he doesn't come home. And some of it could be just their old age. They don't travel as much. But Inhofe, I don't see him around much the last 10 years. Yeah, he just doesn't make himself. No, unless it's election year, boy, then he's everywhere. He's in every county.
He's everywhere. He's everywhere.
Yeah, so it's some of it is you got to be careful who you surround yourself. Now, this is where it gets back to Herschel Walker. Herschel needs the right kind of people mentoring him that don't crush him.
Right.
Because there's something authentic about Herschel.
Right.
Now, he's not a good communicator, and that's okay. Yeah. In fact, he's basically turned down all the debates that were, in the primaries. They wanted to debate. He wouldn't show up. It was a smart political move because you give them stature when you get
now it's time for him to debate. And here's what he needs to do. But see, if I were his manager or whatever, I would say, okay, just like Rocky, tomorrow morning, you're getting up in the morning, I'm going to make you a drink, 4 raw eggs, milk, 200 push-ups. No, see, that's the easy stuff for Herschel. He's already
go down to the meat plant. And,
hitting
and
then we're going to video it and send it to Warlock.
Yeah.
No, but I would have him up early in the morning. Mm-hmm. And what we would be doing, I would be having diction classes. Mm-hmm. See, I don't care. This is Herschel. Okay, Herschel. People have your Heisman Trophy winner, your NFL star, you're this. Okay, that's the old Herschel. Mm-hmm. You want to be Senator Herschel Walker.
Yeah. Okay,
now we've got to create a new you. Mm-hmm. Okay, you're going to learn how to speak English, brother.
Oh, yeah, and you're going to have a speech writer daily.
Right, and first we got to have a speech talker. A speech speech coach.
Yeah.
And Booker T. Washington, this is one thing that he, if you ever heard, they actually have recordings of him speaking. Mm-hmm. Unbelievable. And he's a slave. He was raised on a plantation as a slave, right? Ignorant slave. And the guy was a phenomenal speaker and writer. So his diction, and he learned from the New England Primer, right? The little book.
Yeah.
Did you ever get one when? Okay.
No, I was Sally, Dick, and Jane time.
Well, no, remember our guest? I can't remember his name. Man.
Oh, yeah.
He gave me a couple. Maybe if I remember, I'll bring you one.
Yeah, I didn't have that, yeah.
But I would, if we have to, just take Herschel down and sit him down, have him go through the New English primer and learn how to pronounce words properly. We're gonna reshape you, and in the next month, Herschel, we're gonna have you become an excellent speaker, and we're gonna get you up on the issues. And this is what we're gonna see. This is all important. Everything matters. Everything matters. And then we're gonna go after the real issues that are going to kick Warlock out of here, okay? We're going to deal with the issues that are important to Georgians, not just like the local, like the new inflation bill that they just passed, which we haven't talked about yet. But the inflation bill that is just a killer to people. I mean, it's going to just... that they're lying about. It's supposed to kill inflation, or it's just gonna. And they just hired what 300,000 new IRS workers to start auditing you and me.
Yeah,
anybody under $100,000 or 200. I mean, come on, are you serious? Like they're gonna make a bunch of money off of people making under $100,000 a year, and anybody above 200,000, oh, no big deal.
Yeah,
I mean, come on. But anyway, getting back to Herschel. So this is the type of thing that kind of bothers me, and this is why a lot of people are overlooking Herschel. Now, Herschel, continue, keep your faith, get your prayer warriors around you, keep praying, and I ask all of you to pray for Herschel Walker because we need that seat. We need to win that seat back in Georgia. But I'm just saying, use common sense, be wise as serpents, harmless as doves.
Yeah. Here's what I think Herschel can do easily. One, you get a good speech writing team.
But you've got to be able to deliver. What I'm saying, he's got to.
I'm not done yet.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Okay. You get that good speech writing team where you can almost like 3 times a week, you address particular issues in a speech. And then you find venues of friendly crowds where you deliver those speeches live, but you don't do Q&A. Herschel's not ready for Q&A.
You basically do a Joe Biden.
Kinda.
Thank you very much.
Well, but you're seeing out there with people.
Yeah.
You're communicating, but it's a written speech.
Right. Oh, yeah.
Because you learn how to use the teleprompter. You know, and that. Listen, Trump had to learn how to use a teleprompter, and I remember those first few speeches were pretty robotic.
Have you ever used a teleprompter?
No, I haven't.
I did one time at ORU. They had me do a thing at one of the Republican meetings, a big thing at ORU, and I was scared to death. I mean, the hardest part was to because they have one here and they have one here, and so to learn to not just read off the one
right
every so often. You look over here and you do it over this one, and after about 2 or 3 minutes, then I got into the rhythm.
Yeah.
But you're just uptight at first.
Right, but they're designed to make it look like it's an ad lib, and you're looking at the crowd, you're making eye contact. They don't know that you're looking at that glass panel,
and it's up to the person running it, because if you ever stop, like the beauty of Donald Trump is he'll stop, he diverts from it. He'll just start telling stories.
That's his best stuff is the ad lib.
He'll start telling stories, and they freeze it. And then he'll go back to it, and then they'll start it again.
Yeah.
So,
they'll probably even have a cursor and say, okay, here's where you left off. This is your next slide. Right? But, I think there are ways that Herschel can still get the communicating done.
Yeah.
He's just going to have it more controlled. And then when the press is screaming and yelling in a scrum, don't bite on it.
Right.
Just don't. You have your press guys say, okay, we're going to be addressing that issue tomorrow at the Tulsa County Republican Women's Club. Be there. We'll be addressing that issue.
I'm sorry, what was that?
Oh, Reagan did that all the time, pretending he couldn't hear him.
Next.
Yeah. But that's how but you have your press people using that to bait them, say, you know what, that issue's coming up next Tuesday, at the Kiwanis Club. We'll be, giving a speech on that issue.
I'm glad, here's one, I'll circle back to you on that.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
For some reason, I can't? Well, for some reason, it worked with Joe Biden's press secretary. You're not going to let me circle back to you? Okay. Next.
Yeah.
That would be good. That would be good.
Yeah, but you are correct. That is a key Senate seat we've got to pick up because we lost 2 Georgia seats that we shouldn't have lost.
No.
You know, so we've got to do that.
Something's wrong in Georgia. There's something that we should not be losing Georgia like that.
I was very troubled when Raffensperger and Kemp won by huge margins.
Yeah.
In the primary.
Yeah.
For their reelection.
The Senate should not lose like that if they're winning by their margins. Mm-hmm. You got to wonder if there's not something else going on there.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, I've got an update from you. We had talked briefly when we had round 3 of the cannabis issue.
Weed.
Yes.
We're getting into the weeds here,
Yeah.
Dave. Okay.
Chip Hall, who's working on a couple of state questions, initiative petitions, said that this West Coast, this Berkeley organization that wants to totally legalize all of it, but kind of make it more of a West Coast style thing. He said, Dave, I guarantee you, those people running that really don't care if it passes or fails. They just want it on the ballot this November to get the turnout of the demographic they want. And I said, that's one thing Republicans want, these issues on a primary ballot where it's not pitting Republicans against Democrats. Right. And he said, it looks like they're going to get on the ballot. I said, listen, back in 2014, Scott Pruitt slow-walked that to get it off of that ballot. And then Mary Fallon put it on the June ballot of 18. I'm sorry. Yeah, it was 16 and 18. But anyway, and so Chip said, he says, the 2 petitions I'm working on may not get the signatures they want in time. He says, I think what we're going to do is probably wait until all the hubbub of this one gets done, and then we're going to reissue our petitions when we're not fighting the confusion of an alternative one. He says, and we'll probably all end up on the same ballot, but we'll have an easier time getting ours. He said, and one of mine is just a straight up, let's clean up the current system, not expand it, but clean up the taxing issues, clean up the oversight, the regulation stuff. And so anyway, so my prediction is I don't think anything's going to be on the ballot in November.
I hope not. I hope Kevin Stitt is made aware of the fact of.
And it's not so much Stitt's power to delay it as it is John O'Connor's.
Well, then,
as the Attorney General.
Well, then somebody should be talking to John O'Connor.
And here's what was done last time. Scott Pruitt wrote a ballot summary of what it is. And Pruitt made it so biased that they had to fight him. And in that court fight, which they won, they got Pruitt's language off of there. That ran out the clock. Here's what happened, for instance, in Colorado, another primary state. The language on the ballot was so misconstrued from what the actual initiative petition was. They called abortion a right. Do you want to give up your right? You don't call it a right.
Is this like what they did in Kansas?
That's what I'm saying. Kansas, they did it that way. And a bunch was like, who writes this stuff?
Yeah, see, that's a good point.
And they wrote it in such a way that there was a great deal of confusion. And then it's,
Yeah.
Is it a government regulation or is it a government protection?
Okay, here's a question I have then, and we'll try to wrap up with this.
Yeah.
There's so much more people that we could be getting into this week, and probably because we didn't do anything last week, did we? But why do the Republicans not have think tanks in this sense to think of ways to push legislation and timing? See what I mean? It's like I think of the old Neil Young, Russ Never Sleeps. You know, it's like the Democrats never sleep. They always have people working on tricks like this, these deceptive little, devious little things like this, where they push something through that they really don't care about, but it's manipulated so they can get the right people to move in to vote in numbers so that they'll vote for something else.
Yeah.
In Kansas, so that they overwhelmingly got rid of the abortion, new abortion law in Kansas.
Here's the thing. What was the headlines from the national corporate media this week following the primaries? More print and more time was spent on Kansas keeping abortions legal and constitutionally protected. Because here's the trick. David Brinkley said this once. It's not that the media can tell you what to think that's so dangerous. It's they can control what you think about. It's the things they don't want you to talk about. They don't give press time to. And like in 1988, ABC News did a exit poll at my precinct. And they asked me to participate. And they said, what's the most important thing, that you're dealing, influencing your vote? And they gave me this checkbox of 10 things. Abortion wasn't on there.
Right.
And then I watched that night in their election coverage. And one of the co-anchors said, did abortion not come up? And they said, no, abortion didn't even make the top 10.
Yeah,
well, they controlled the top 10.
Yeah, right. And see, the thing is, Kansas, for example, a lot of people don't understand, but Kansas really is not a very populous state. It's really, you got Kansas City, Kansas.
Yeah.
You got
Wichita. They're the biggest city.
Right. Wichita is bigger than Kansas City?
Kansas City, Kansas is smaller.
Really?
Yes.
That's what I meant.
Kansas City, Missouri.
Oh, no. But even Kansas City, Kansas is, but see, if you have Kansas City, Overland Park, and Shawnee Mission, if you take that, the metropolitan area of Kansas City. On the Kansas side. That's
that
probably
may be
bigger.
now.
I think that's bigger.
10 years ago, it wasn't.
Right.
Yeah, in fact, I remember back in the 90s, David Averill with the Tulsa World said Eastern Oklahoma ought to secede and be enjoined to Kansas because at least we'd be the biggest city in the state.
Yeah. So I think people don't understand how Kansas votes or thinks the way they do.
Yeah.
But it's you got all these rural farms and communities, but you've got basically three cities probably that control the whole.
There is a cultural divide between Oklahoma and Kansas. We are a southern state. They are not.
Right. And
you find that out quickly when you just spend any time talking with the common folk there. Yeah. They think like a Midwesterner. They think like an Iowan, very much like an Iowan.
Yeah, and Iowa's kind of a crazy state too. So.
But, it's just a little bit different. They aren't so much for the small government. They aren't so much libertarian at all,
Let's finish with this.
Yeah.
Getting back to Congressman Mark Wayne Mullen and P.W. Shannon. Do you think, I'll tell you what I think, and this may be a warning to him, but I think that Congressman Mullen may have gone to sleep a little bit. I think he may have started taking this race for granted a little bit. Do you think he's still overwhelmingly or has a pretty big lead? Which reminds me, we should get, what's the name from the Sooner poll? What is it?
Bill Shepard?
Bill Shepard. We should. Why don't if you can contact him, see if we can get him.
And
on.
Actually, his chief of staff, Kyle Lovelace, good friend of mine.
Yeah, that would be good if we could get him on and ask him. We could do him even though he doesn't have to come in. We can do him over the phone. But I would like his opinion on where it stands. But I'm honestly I'm of the opinion that Mark Wayne Mullen may be taking this a little bit for granted.
Think so? Well, I think, just looking at the other people in the race, you had Luke Holland and Nathan Dahm were the next two vote getters, Nathan being third. I just think that their support is likely to go to Mullen. I do. TW, I think, hurt himself with being such a cheerleader for McGirt. By the way, last Saturday night, I was at a party for our good friend Darren Gantz, and there were some Cherokee tribal members there who happen to be friends of his, and they had some very harsh things to say about our friend No Fire, Wes No Fire.
Really?
Yeah, they said he's the odd man out on that council because, here's the words, he says, because he's not for sovereignty. That's their whole right.
Would they call him an Uncle Tom Tom?
That's pretty much, the equivalent. And because to them, the radicals, and I'm going to call them radicals, on that council are for take this as far as we can go, even to the point of secession if we have opportunity.
Yeah, see, and that's a problem. And that again gets to the Democrat Party, what they have done to the balkanization of America.
Yeah.
You've got the black people here, Asians, Hispanics, Native Americans. It's everybody for themselves. Mm-hmm. We are not a nation. And what did Jesus say and Abraham Lincoln? Quote, a house divided against itself cannot stand.
Yeah.
I mean, it's fact, people. Yeah. A house divided cannot stand.
Yeah. So what I'm getting at in this is I think the Cherokee tribe is radicalized in their leadership, not the tribal membership so much. I mean, Governor Stitt's a tribal member, but not in the other.
So how do they get it back?
Well,
you got to have people like Wes No Fire, and he needs to find other and Mike Stop.
You've got to communicate to the people just what their leadership is doing to their tribe.
Well, somebody better get on it.
Now, a good friend of mine, I mean, I've known him since he's 3 years old, was David Walkingstick, ran and was likely to defeat Hoskins, their chief. The election board threw him off the ballot. They claim because he got some campaign contributions from people that weren't tribal members. They equated that to taking foreign money. Okay? Keep in mind, they are secessionists. They really believe Cherokee Nation is a nation. They want it both ways. So
well, wait, okay. No, what I was going to say, okay, now here's the deal. Here's what I would say to them. Mm-hmm. Okay, we will allow you to be your own nation, but you will not get $1 federal.
Yeah.
No, seriously. I mean, do you really want this? Then we'll pick your land. We'll determine your borders, but you will not get 1 penny of federal help.
Yeah.
Okay, you're on your own.
Yeah.
And then let's see what happens then. Mm-hmm. And then basically we will tax any income that comes out of that land. Anything you do outside, anybody that makes money, gambles, whatever. We're taxing it to the nth degree. That's how you deal with that. Mm-hmm. If you sell anything off the reservation, we're taxing it.
Tariffs.
Yeah. I mean, all of it. I mean, if you're going to act like that, we're going to do you like we do China, like we do Mexico, like we do Germany, England. You want sovereignty? Be sovereign. Enjoy yourself. Now, I would do that, and that's probably what Donald Trump would do, and then take that to your tribe. Let them vote on that. Is that what you really want? Because I don't care. You're too big for your britches, because I guarantee you got Navajo, Arapaho, and Iroquois, and you name them that aren't going to agree with you. I bet you all those other. Let's ask the other tribes. Do you want it? No, we like it.
Actually, that might be a great chaos move, is to jump the shark and put it out there. And, if the tribe
call the bluff.
Yeah, if the tribe has an initiative petition process, you put it out there, and you draw the dragon out of his cave before he's ready to.
Yeah. Imagine every Cherokee living in Tulsa and all throughout Oklahoma. Mm-hmm. And you say, okay, here's what's going to happen. If you're a member, okay, you will have to move back into your deal, and you will have to apply for citizenship.
Yeah.
If you're going to work here, you're gonna have to get a green card, and you're going to have to apply for a green card. Here's what it's going to cost you, and I mean, in other words, there's no free lunch anymore. You're not going to be a citizen of two countries. If you want to be sovereign, you're going to be sovereign. If you're not, you're not.
Yeah.
That's what I say. So
yeah, so it's just what Wes No Fire, who we had in here a couple months ago, what he's dealing with. He's one of maybe only two voices.
yeah, let's get him and Mike back.
I think we need to.
I don't know what happened to Mike. He
And-
was supposed to come in a few weeks ago.
Right, but and this is a battle. Now, this member of the tribe council that I was talking to, he said, "Yeah, I know Mike." He said, "Actually, as a person, I like Mike." But he says, his view on sovereignty is just, it's a sellout to the tribe. I mean, he said something to that effect,
Well, of course it's a sellout.
Yeah.
Of course it's a sellout.
Yeah.
It's like me being against reparations. Mm-hmm. That's a sellout.
Yeah.
It's the same thing.
Yeah, it's an
It's-
Uncle Tom
it's-
equivalency.
Yeah, Uncle Tom.
Yeah.
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 All right, we better.
Uncle Tomahawk, right?
Yeah, Tom.
Oh, God. Now I'm gonna
Whatever.
hear it. Yeah.
You're getting it. Finally hit you. He's a little slow, people, but it's all right. We forgive you.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
It's been a great day.
yeah.
We'll be back next week.
Yes. Hopefully, Lord willing,
Yes.
and the creek don't dry.
Yeah, that's right.
Not the Creek Indians, but the creek.
Who's on the music box? Who is this?
I'm trying to think now. I can't. I'll get back to you on that. I'll circle back. God bless everybody. Have a great week.
But my thoughts are like clouds drifting far away. Well, lying in I doubt sometimes that I'm on your mind. Just another face looking up from the crowd, searching for a way to talk to you now. Sometimes I feel small in the scope of it all, and then I'm reminded again that the very same God that dreamt of the ocean and set the stars into place, well, he knows me by name. The very same God that put the world into motion is listening today. Here's what I say when I pray. Oh, when I pray. I thank you for the faith that keeps me inspired, that tells me every day how much you desire just to hear from me. I can't tell you how much that means. It's so hard to